Hey everyone, it's Brandy and welcome back to my channel, Brandy Janae's Bookshelf. Today I am here to go over all of the books that I finished in August. So August was an interesting reading month. I went into it very much in a reading mood and I was like really excited. I had a bunch of books and I was just like, I'm going to get through them all. But somehow I ended up with books that just were not hitting the way I needed them to, and it just kind of dragged out my reading for the rest of the month. So let's just jump right into some stats so we can get into the actual books, and hopefully this video isn't too long since I don't have that many books that I'm going to be going in detail with. As far as August, I finished a total of 23 books, which I think is kind of wild, but I'll get into why that number ended up being so high. Over those 23 books, I read 7,372 pages, and that's not including the books that I ended up DNFing. If we include the books that I did DNF, then I read 7,669 pages. My average rating for this month was 3.78 stars, and that's because I did not count any rereads, and then of course I did not count any DNFs either, so I think it ended up still being pretty high considering how I felt like overall my reading month went. I had 2 DNFs for the month. 14 of the books that I read were rereads, which is why my numbers ended up being so high. 8 of the books that I read were print or I have print copies of them. I didn't read any ebooks, and then 15 of the books that I read were audiobooks. Because I have DNF this month, we're going to start with DNFs, getting to rereads, and then get into everything else. So starting with DNFs, like I said, I had 2 of those and I'm just going through these in order. So the first DNF that I had was Fortuna Sworn by KJ Sutton. So in this book we're following a character whose name is actually Fortuna Sworn. Okay, so I'm gonna skip over like the very beginning of the story when it comes to the description, because that's not mentioned at all in the actual book's description, either on Goodreads or Amazon, and I felt like that was just completely glossed over. I was real confused when I started the book, but we're gonna skip over that. But at the start of the story, the character is kind of lost because her brother went missing 2 years ago, and she's trying to find any clues that she possibly can on where he might have gone or who might have taken him, but she's just not having any luck. And she has been living in this town and hiding among humans, and one day she seems to catch the eye of a powerful fae. He ends up offering her information on where her brother is being held in exchange for her fulfilling his desires. So I was really excited going into this one. I was just like, this seems like very much the type of thing that I would like to read. It has fit along with the same themes of books that I have loved in the past. So like I said, very excited going into it. I've seen quite a few good reviews on it, or at least I thought I did. And I was actually trying to read this one, not physically, but I bought an ebook copy of this, so I was trying to read it. I was reading like a chapter on my phone a night because I just couldn't seem to get any more than that read. I was struggling through reading this for like a good week and a half, probably 2 weeks, and I just wasn't enjoying it at all. I talked a little bit about it in my mid-month check-in, and this book just wasn't what I was expecting it to be, and it didn't hold my interest like I thought it would. So I ended up just putting it down. I was trying to force my way through it because I was like, I have a feeling that if I get into it enough that I would end up enjoying it. Honestly, I just didn't care enough about the ending at this point to try to force my way through it. So I put it down. Obviously, me DNFing a book doesn't mean I'm never going to pick it up again. but it wasn't working and it ended up derailing a bunch of my reading for the month. So this was my first DNF. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't want to have to keep trying to explain myself. I did have another DNF, which I'm thinking about trying to fit in for my reading in September. I still don't know if I am in the mood to read this, but that is The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. I think when I did my mid-month check-in, I talked about how I was planning on finishing this up, and I thought I was going to finish it by the end of the week, but I have not touched the book, or I had not touched the book since right before I filmed that mid-month check-in. This is another one that I was reading and it was holding my interest, especially because I was listening to this one audio and following along with the book when I had a minute to sit back and like pick up the book, or if it was something happening that I felt like I was losing focus on, I would just stop and pick up the book so I could follow along, so I could become immersed in whatever scene was happening. But after those initial 3 days, I put it down and I was reading other things and I kind of forgot I was reading this. I did try to pick it back up. I was just like, I don't know what's really going on, and I just didn't really care to try to backtrack to figure it out, or just try to push through and finish it off. I tried like 2 different times to pick it back up and I just was not feeling it anymore. So I decided to DNF this for now. This is one that I am definitely going to try again. It's just timing, and I don't feel like after Fortuna Sworn, I was just like, I don't want to have to try to force myself to finish this right now when I'm not feeling it, because that's going to keep me from reading even more. I think this was one of the books that I had on my 12 must reads of 2021. It's just going to have to get X'd out for now, unless I decide to pick it back up before the end of the year. But for now, like I said, I'll put this down. Wasn't super interested in it at the moment, and hopefully that changes, but who knows. So the next set of books that I have to talk about are all of my rereads for the month. Now this is, like I said, where the majority of my books came from, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this section because I have talked about all of these multiple times, and I don't feel like it's really that smart to spend a whole bunch of time going over these again. I'm not going to be giving them new ratings on Goodreads. I left all my ratings on Goodreads. I did rate them again for my personal spreadsheet with CallPal just to see where it landed this time around. Let's just go through these quickly. So the first set of rereads that I had were the 12 books from the Mercy Thompson series by Patricia Briggs, and this is all of the main novels in the series. If you haven't heard anything about the series or heard me talking about it at any point in time, the series is following this character named Mercy Thompson. She was actually raised by werewolves, but now she is living in the Tri-Cities in Washington, and she's actually living right next to the alpha of the Columbian Basin Pack. She's now living her normal life, as normal as can be, honestly, working as a Volkswagen mechanic, but her life is suddenly shaken up when this newly changed werewolf stumbles upon her shop and is looking for work, and it leads into a whole nother situation. Yeah, that's very general description of what this is, but definitely go look more into it if you haven't heard me talking about it. I'm sure you probably have if you've been on my channel for any length of time. This is one of those series that I felt like whenever I'm looking for a comfort read, something to like make sure that I'm not reading, this is one of my go-to series, and that's exactly what happened this time around. And then my second set of rereads that I have for the month was the first 2 books in the Other series by Ian Bishop, another series that I have talked about multiple times, but just in case you haven't heard of it, haven't heard me talking about it, this is following the story of both humans and others, or terra indigene, that are living in really the world, but we're mainly focusing on the lakeside courtyard for the majority of the book. And it follows them as their lives get shaken up when this blood prophet escapes from captivity and finds her way to the lakeside courtyard. I read the first 2 books. I was in the middle of book 3 before the end of the month, so I have already finished that in September, and I'm probably going to end up finishing the rest of the series in September. But at least as far as August, I finished the first 2 books in that. So now let's move into all of my new reads for the month. And as always, I'm going to be going in order from lowest to highest rated. So the first one that I have to talk about is After School Hanako-kan. And I'm honestly probably not even going to get into details with a few of these new reads because I have already talked about them in manga reviews for Manga Spice Cafe. So I don't want to continue to repeat myself if I already have videos for you guys to check out. But this one is basically a short story collection that is very much like side storyline things going on from the Toilet Bound Hanako-kan series. I really can't get into details about this because it's literally just a bunch of short stories that don't really add anything to the original storyline. It's just kind of extra little things that you might enjoy if you're a fan of the series. So this one ended up getting 2 stars for me, and if you're interested in seeing why that was, then I will make sure to leave the link. I think it's this side, but it might be that side. I don't know. I will leave the link to the video that I did discussing this book, and I think actually the next one that I have to talk about as well. Sorry for the kind of random cut in. I'm actually working on editing this video now, and for whatever reason I don't have clips of me talking about any of my 3-star reads. Luckily it was only 2, and both of them I have already talked about in other videos that I will be linking you to, so you can get a little bit more information because I'm not going to go into too many details on those. For the first 3-star read that I had, that was Undead Unluck Volume 1 by Yoshifumi Tezuka. This was one of the books that I received, or one of the mangas that I received in the May Manga Spice Cafe box, along with the previous book, my 2-star read. So you can go and watch the video for details of what the manga was about, as well as my thoughts on it by the time that I finished reading it. I'm not going to get into description, like I said, because this is like super last minute and I don't want to spend forever trying to summarize this again. And then for the second and only other 3-star reads for August, that was Yakuza Lover Volume 1 by Nozomi Mino. And this one I received in the June Manga Spice Cafe box. I actually just finished editing this one and have already scheduled that. So that video should have gone up couple days before this one, so you guys can go ahead and check that out. I will make sure to leave the link up above in the corners. Those are the 2 books that I needed to cut in and talk about. Like I said, Undead Unluck Volume 1 and Yakuza Lover Volume 1, both received in Manga Spice Cafe boxes, one in May, the other in June. And now I'm going to get back to the rest of the video. Anyway, we're now in my 4-star section of books. I think 4 stars is usually always the biggest section. The first 4-star read that I finished in August was Emerald Blaze by Alona Andrews, which was the 5th book, I think, in the Hidden Legacy series, and it's actually book 2 in the Catalina specific series. There's not much I can really say about this one without spoiling any of the series. So if you know nothing about the entire series, we start off following Nevada Baylor and the rest of her family, but they live in a like alternate universe of the real world where there are different magical families and they have been built up over so long. The Baylor family doesn't come from any specific family. They're very low key, and they end up getting thrown into it with the big houses because of a case that they end up working on, because they are working as private investigators. Even me trying to do general stuff, I feel like I'm spoiling stuff. So we have 3 books that are following Nevada, and then we switch over to Catalina being the lead of the series. So this book, the family is once again under attack by multiple sources. One front is coming from Catalina's new work, and then the other front is someone personally attacking their household. I think once they became a house, they had so many years of people or other families not being able to attack them, but I think it was at the start of this story where that timeline is finally up, so now they're free game, and now there are certain families trying to come after them for whatever reasons. So they're dealing with attacks on multiple fronts, and also Alessandro, who is the big love interest of this set of the series, he comes back into town. He has a new agenda when it comes to Catalina as opposed to how he was in the previous book, and we're pretty much just following them as they're trying to figure out who's behind the different attacks before it's too late. I feel like that is very general, and you could probably use that for any number of things, but that's the best I could do without giving away the whole book. But this book was so good. Why it only got 4 stars, I don't know, but I'm trying to be as honest as possible when I'm filling out Cowpal, and I'm sure, like I say, with almost every 4-star book, it wasn't perfect, but it was really good. I very much enjoyed it, which is why it got 4. I think it was very high 4, so close to 5. But it was just something that was holding it back. I don't remember. I read this one. I think this was actually the first book I finished in the month. So I don't remember all of the details because I have read so many things since then. I just know that I really enjoyed these characters. I love the series. We finally got to see a new baby in the family, which is great. If you read any of the series, you will know whose baby that is. But I can't wait to see how this set of character story concludes, and then we move on to the next sister, because I know that her series is just going to be a little wild, and I can't wait. And I don't know, these authors just know how to put together a well-written story, and it just amazes me that over different series how much I still enjoy them when I have different characters, and it just makes me even more excited to go and read things from them that I still haven't even tried yet. This one got 4 stars. I know that I barely talked about it, but honestly, like I said, it's hard to talk about stuff without spoiling and stuff. The next book that I have to talk about was a sci-fi that I picked up pretty early on in the month as well, and that's Bonds of Brides by Emily Skratsky. I think is how you say her name. We're viewing the story through the perspective of Etienne Nassin. At the start of the story, he's actually in training at an Umber military academy. So when he was younger, his home planet was invaded by the Umber Empire, and he's just trying to make the most of the situation that he's currently in, and he feels like he's betraying his home people because he's doing so well at this military academy. But at the same time, he's just like, what other choice do I have? But things completely change for him after there is an assassination attempt on basically his best friend at this academy, whose name is Gal. And in the process of this, he ends up finding out that Gal is the heir to the Umber Empire, and now he's tasked with making sure that he remains safe, but also once again questioning his loyalties, because this is the son of the person who destroyed his life, basically, and he's trying to figure out what is the best option for him. And when I tell you guys, I was looking for a sci-fi, and this was so good. I used to think I wasn't into stories that had to do with politics and things like that, but I've noticed, at least when it comes to sci-fis, that if there's no political intrigue going on, then I'm most likely probably not going to enjoy it. Which, okay, not necessarily true, but I feel like that is a big part, because usually there needs to be some intergalactic war. I think my reading taste is changing. I feel like I wouldn't have always liked to read this type of book, but I fell in love with this, the characters, how things played out, and the ending. I was just like, this was one of those times I actually didn't see the ending coming. Like, you could probably expect that if you're really reading into all the little cues, but I thought it was going to go a different way, and I was just like, oh, okay, this is what's going on. I love this book so much. Once again, how it only got 4 stars, I don't know. I was kind of shocked once I put everything in, and I was just like, oh, it's just 4. But I think this is another one that was very high for, like almost at 5 stars. So maybe I could have bumped up a number here or there, but I wanted to stick to what I felt like the number should be in the spreadsheet to get the rating that I got. I'm gonna have to get copies of both the first and second book for myself, because I really can't wait to read it. But this is amazing, and I like this made me want to read even more sci-fi, like even more adult sci-fi. So I'm trying to think of the best way to go next because I'm like, I'm still a little scared about trying to read something that's like too out there. But I feel like at this point, if I've read or I really listened to it, that's probably the best option for me right now. But I got through Christopher Paolini's sci-fi book earlier this year, so if I can do that, I should be able to pick up other stuff. So I'm thinking about possibly doing, I don't know the man's name. I keep hearing it because everyone's talking about it. But Leviathan Waits is the first book in the series. I'm thinking about trying to start that one. So might be more sci-fi in my future, which is not relevant to this. This was really good. Like I said, I really can't wait for book 2 because I need to know what's going to happen with the characters, like how this is going to go. It's just, yes, I like this. Alrighty, moving right along. The next one that I have to talk about is After the Rain Volume 2 by Jun Mayuzuki. We're following this character named Akira Tachibana, and she had an injury to her ankle, I believe, and she hasn't been able to run out her school's track team as she used to. And now she's working at a restaurant to kind of fill in her extra time. I don't think she really needs the money. I think, like I said, it's just to fill up the time since she's not able to be on a track team anymore. And while she's there, she ends up developing a crush on her 45-year-old manager. In this volume, I feel like it's a lot more of her manager trying to figure out how to get Akira to not have a crush on him. Like, he's just like, I really appreciate the thought, but I'm not the person that you should be feeling this way for, basically. In her feelings for him being revealed, he's starting to think a lot more about his past and things that he hasn't done that he had wanted to do, which leads him to getting in touch with old friends. Also on her end, she is starting to slightly get back in contact with one of her friends from the track team. This is one of those very slow stories where you're just following the characters as they go about everyday life. It's kind of one of those things that I feel like when I think about what it's actually about, I'm like, I don't know if I would enjoy that. But there's something very charming about the story, and just it's very fast paced. So when I read these, I get through them pretty quickly. This is just like a very nice palate cleanser read, I guess. So far, I'm enjoying the direction that it's taking. I appreciate that the manager, I don't remember his name at the moment, but that he's very firm in his letting her know, look, this is not the best option for you. I appreciate the thought, but you should go and live your life as a teenager and things like that. He's open to learning things or talking to her in a friendly manner, but he's very much trying to let her know, look, we're friends. That's all we are. That's all we need to be. So I'm curious. I think I have 3 more volumes of these bind up editions left. So I have a feeling that by the end of this, she's going to go back to living her life as normal. But I'm curious as how all of that will play out. I'm looking forward to reading the rest of the series, and I'm hoping that I enjoy the rest of them as much as I have these. The last of the 4-star reads that I have to talk about is Video Girl I Volume 1 by Masakazu Katsura. This is another one that I'm not really going to spend time going into my personal thoughts because you should have just gotten a video talking about this. We're following this character named Yota, who is very unpopular at his high school. He's never been on a date, and because of that, he is teased a lot. He does have a crush on one of his classmates, and he's been trying to work up the courage to finally ask her out. But right before he does, he ends up finding out that this girl actually has a crush on his friend. and he's very heartbroken and he's not sure what he should do. He ends up finding this random video shop and he rents this video, and he has a broken VCR and he puts it on, plays the video, and the girl from the video that he rented ends up coming out of the TV, and now he's stuck with this girl who is trying her best to make sure that he's happy. This one got 4 stars. Make sure to check out my July Manga Spice Cafe unboxing / review so you can see personal thoughts on this one, because I literally just filmed the video, so I don't want to have to go through that again. But yeah, I have this thoughts in another video along with Haru's Curse by Asuka Konishi. This one also came in that July box, so make sure to check that out for more detailed thoughts, or for detailed thoughts on why this ended up getting the rating that it did. But this is now moving into my 5-star section. This one is following characters Natsumi and Togo. So Natsumi's younger sister ends up dying really young, and after that she ends up starting to date her sister's fiance, or ex-fiance, now that her sister passed away. And it's following the story of exactly how that started out and why, and then the direction that it's going, whether it's going to work out or not. And I'm gonna leave that there. This one ended up getting 5 stars. I didn't think I was gonna like this as far as the subject matter, but I did really end up loving this, as you can see, because it got 5 stars. But go check out that video for thoughts actually on all 3 of these mangas, because I just filmed that, so I feel like that's gonna do a lot better than me trying to go through all of those again. And then what I believe is the final book that I have to talk about in my final 5-star, which is Solo Leveling Volume 2. Original story is by Chu Gong, and then it looks like the manhwa edition was done by Rereads Studio. Not quite sure, but that's what it says according to the cover. So if you haven't already seen me talking about Volume 1, I actually got that in another Manga Spice Cafe. I feel like most of my mangas recently have come from those boxes. In this world, there are hunters who have abilities that put them slightly above humans when it comes to strength, ability to heal, and things like that. And also, along with the hunters, there are portals that opened up in the world, and these magical creatures are coming through, so the hunters are setting out to kill them, and they are ranked by letter. And you know, they have the ability to go to certain locations based on their rank. We're following this character named Jinwoo, who is E, which is the lowest rank you can be. He's the lowest ranked E level that anyone has ever known. And, you know, obviously because of that, he is the weakest hunter that has ever existed. As a result, he's not really making a whole lot of money, but he sticks with doing the job because he's trying to make money to help his sister pay for school, as well as pay for his mother's medical bills. And at the beginning of the first story, he's going on this raid with this big group, and they end up finding a double dungeon, like a second dungeon within the one that they thought they were going to be in. And that leads to a lot of that group getting killed off and Jinwoo kind of getting into this other thing. I don't even know what to call it. It almost seems like a video game, but I think it's a little bit more involved than that, where he could possibly get better at becoming a hunter. And Volume 2 is pretty much following the continuation of that, and how this new thing that he is in, which, like I said, I don't know how to explain it, because he gets like screens that come up that no one else can see, which are basically like if you're playing a quest type video game, that's like the type of thing that is constantly showing up. Like, he has daily tasks that he needs to complete. If he doesn't, he gets punishments. And at the end of Volume 1, we see him go into this dungeon on his own, and he can't get out until he defeat whatever the monster is. So that's how that first volume ends, and the second one opens up where he finally goes to see whatever it is and try to defeat it. I don't know how to explain how much I enjoy this. Like, it almost seems like I'm watching an anime, but I'm reading it instead. Like, I would love to see, it might actually be an anime out for this, so I might have to look into that, because that might be more updated than this is. It almost seems like this is an anime just put down in like book format, and it's just so quick and easy to follow and just so action packed. It's just a lot going on, and I love it. And this was just one of the highlights of my reading month, and I don't know what else to say. I love this. I gave it 5 stars. But anyway, yes, those are all of the books that I had to talk about from August. It ended up being way more than I thought it was going to be because of those rereads. Still really excited about how everything went, and I'm hoping that September goes way better, because if you've seen my TBR, then you know I have a lot of books that I wanted to read, and then I've already had books that I'm like, ooh, I want to read that, ooh, I want to read that. I'm trying to stick to it, but I've had things that I'm reading outside of that as well, so we'll see how everything works out. I'm trying to get back on track, because I'm already like way off in left field when it comes to reading for the month. But yeah, I hope that it's going to be good. Let me know down in the comments what were some of your favorite reads from August. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to see more from me, make sure you subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next one. Bye.